Hey up guys, welcome back to Piggy Pen's Tube on Yorkshire Day. Happy Yorkshire Day everybody. If you are a colourist or artist in the Yorkshire region, if you were born and bred here, or if you live here now, or if you used to live here, or if you've got any connection with the wonderful county of Yorkshire, I hope you have a great day on Yorkshire Day. Now, it's Yorkshire Day today. This is Saturday, the 1st of August. It's 1st of August every year. That's Yorkshire Day. And yeah, you'll probably see this a little bit afterwards, but I'm just going to show you how I'm celebrating Yorkshire Day this year. And that is by colouring a lovely page in Hanna Karlzons Tales from the Castle Ruins. It looks very much like a Tudor or Yorkshire rose. It's not exactly the same, but I'm going to make it work. And I thought I'd invite you to have a nice little cup of tea with me. I'm using my granny's tea set that's been, handed down to my mum, and now I've got it. And yeah, we're going to have a nice pot of tea in me. Look at my teapot. I can't really show you it without spilling, but it says, "You can take the lass out of Yorkshire, but you can't take Yorkshire out of the lass." So that's my teapot. And I've got some of my favourite biscuits, and I'm going to have a little bit of a snack. For those guys who don't enjoy me eating on camera, don't worry, any chewing will be muted for your pleasure. But this is part of what I do on my channel. I munch yummy snacks and I colour things. So this is what I do. So yeah, of course, look, I've got my Yorkshire tea here. And this is just a little bit of an extra prop. Look, it says, "Keep this end calm, that's from Yorkshire." We do tend to be very Yorkshire proud, us guys from Yorkshire, and we do it with a sense of humour. Yorkshire is known as God's own country, and we love to tell people that. And yes, country, not county. It's known as God's own country. So yeah, we're very Yorkshire proud. And I thought, just while I'm colouring this Yorkshire rose today, which I'm going to do with acrylic paints for the most part. Don't think I've ever used acrylic paints as an adult. So I've got these from Winsor & Newton. I've had them ages. Just saw them in an art shop and they had some money off, so I picked them up. Galleria acrylics. So I'm sure I will have used them, in college. And I obviously enjoy an acrylic marker. So I have in my tea, what about you? How do you have your tea? I have mine with about a quarter to a third of a spoon of sugar, just the end of the spoon, which was already in there. And then I've got my little milk jug, which I picked up from the Wensleydale Creamery. If you've never been to the Wensleydale Creamery, it's lovely if you're in that area. Pick up some lovely Wensleydale cheese. As you can see, I don't do this performance a lot. That's perfect colour. As I always say, the colour of He-Man's face. And I'll be enjoying today some of these Milka biscuits. If you've not tried them, give them a go. They are an amazing sensation on the tongue after you've dunked, because for some reason, especially if you keep them in fridge, the biscuit sort of disintegrates quicker than the chocolate. You have this lovely soft silky chocolate on your tongue. So yeah, just too many dunks. It's definitely a one dunk of this. Yummy. I got a comment a couple of months back, "Do we really need to watch you stuff in your face?" And I thought, well, no, but you are in control of your own life. Just scroll on. We love us tea in Yorkshire. So I thought, as I'm colouring, which I'll show you this picture properly, obviously, very, very soon. As I'm colouring this page, I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about what I'm doing, how I'm using the acrylic paints, but also I'll talk to you about Yorkshire, just here and there, some little tidbits about life living in Yorkshire and why we love it so much. This is a McVitie's chocolate digestive. It's got to be plain chocolate for me. Milk chocolate does not work as well as plain on a digestive. If you agree with me, tell me, because I think we're in a minority. Delicious. Oh, it's the best. And for some reason, it tastes even better out of my granny's teacup. Isn't it pretty? Look at that plate. the edge of it. I can remember going to my grandma's when I was a little girl, and I don't know if this were the same in other countries, but in the UK, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, ladies had a china cabinet, and that's where they kept all the little china knickknacks and the tea sets and things like that. And I think that's something like from Victorian times or whatever, but certainly my grandma had a china cabinet with all the tea sets in. And I loved, it had a little lock on it with a tiny little key, all glass, and like probably teak or mahogany, sort of like with wood inlay, big glass panes, and a tiny little key. And I just loved, Grandma, can I unlock the cabinet? And she'd, I had to be supervised because I'm clumsy. But I'd unlock a china cabinet and I'd play with all, gently, obviously, with a china and all the little knickknacks. And I loved it. I loved my grandma's china cabinet. I'm not bothered about aesthetics in my home. Home to me, because I'm here a lot on my own. And even when I wasn't, home to me, you should just be surrounded by things that make you happy. And I'm not bothered if it doesn't look like it's out of a showroom. So for me, I've got a limit, don't get me wrong, but I would happily enjoy looking at my granny's china cabinet in this living room right now. It won't bother me in the slightest if it's not in keeping with modern design and all that. I'd happily just have those things around me. I'm a very nostalgic person. So yeah, Yorkshire Day, 1st of August, every single year. We do love our cups of tea. Yorkshire tea, and I'm not just saying this, but Yorkshire tea is actually the best tea in the world. So if you visited the UK or you spent any time here and you've been sampling things like Tetley's or PG tips, you're in the wrong ballpark. You need to get Yorkshire tea. It's just the most superior tea in a bag that you can get. You can get it loose leaf as well. I'm not sponsored by Yorkshire tea, although if they want to send me some free bags, I'm there. But yeah, we love us tea, and we love, we are known for wearing flat caps, having whippets, walking up moors, which isn't, the modern day Yorkshire person, but we do sort of hark back to that quite fondly. I love Ilkley, the famous song Ilkley Bartat. Well, it's famous if you're in this country. On Ilkley Bartat, on Ilkley Bartat, on Ilkley Bartat. And all that means on Ilkley Bartat, it just means on Ilkley without your hat. But Ilkley is a beautiful place. If ever you're in Yorkshire and you want to go on a, quite a remote, pretty walk, it's beautiful up on Ilkley. But we're also the county that is home to the Bronte sisters, Haworth, and the surrounding countryside, all where the sort of base the story of Wuthering Heights. That's up there, and I've walked up to the old building where it was supposed to be. That's where the sort of area that was that inspired the book. So yeah, it's a beautiful county. If you get a chance to come to the UK and you can spend a couple of days in Yorkshire, I would highly recommend you visit places like the Peak District or the Yorkshire Dales, or even the North York Moors. And our capital, York, is a wonderful place. It's so historic. It was a huge it was one of the first Viking sort of centres in this country. So we have the Jorvik Viking Centre there, and the Romans obviously occupied York, and it was one of the main sort of bases for the Romans in the UK. So you can still see the castle walls that surrounded the city. And you can still see the old Roman towers, the Clifford Tower and places like that. And the cathedral, York Minster, it's a minster. There is actually a beautiful stained glass window in the minster. It's a fantastic building. And in the centre of the stained glass is a Yorkshire rose, and it's a beautiful memory from my childhood. You're right on the river there at York. It's so picturesque in the summer. Sit down, have a picnic by the river. There's peacocks in the gardens there. And, you know, there's a lot of the old, very, very old streets and shopping streets. A famous street in York is called the Shambles, and that is a wonderful place to walk down and have a little look in the shops and that there. So, yeah, I highly recommend you visit York if you're in Yorkshire. It's a fantastic day out. Gorgeous restaurants, great food. Yeah, just perfect day out. Is perfect weekend away is York, actually. You can take a boat out on the river if you want and all that. just wanted to tell you about my home county. It's just a place I love. Right. I will make sure that I've put a timestamp at the start so you can fast forward through that if you're not interested. I'm going to finish my cup of tea and my biscuits, and I'll come back to you when you'll see a proper view of this page. Okay then, so put my biscuits aside. If you're trying to lose weight as well, don't attack the biscuits like that. That's 5 biscuits that are probably over 100 calories each. So, you know, I can't eat that in one sitting. Well, I can. I don't know why I'm lying, but I haven't done on this occasion. So I just know that somebody will go, I know you mentioned you were wanting to lose weight. Do you realise that's 500 calories? Yeah, but I'm 50 years old, so I'm past caring. I'm gonna cheat and do it the easy way. Fat loss jabs. Right. We are here today to colour this page in Hanna Karlzons Tales from the Castle Ruins, in acrylic paint mainly. Now then, I'll show you what I'm using. This is my biscuit tin of paints that I use, and I've got my gouache in here and my acrylic. And yes, I say gouache because that's just how I say it, because I'm from Yorkshire and I read it and to me it says gouache. But I know that, proper people will call it wash. And this is acrylic, which I've never used acrylic. I can't remember using it. I think I probably used it in college, but I don't recall it. I use acrylic markers, of course. And I'm glad I've got, because obviously the Yorkshire Rose, I'll show you reference pictures on screen that I'll be using today to complete this lovely Yorkshire Rose. It's mainly white, so happily I've got a full tube of, well, it's 20ml of titanium white, but I am going to be using a lot of it, and I like to use it quite thickly. I like to use gouache quite thickly as well, actually. So yeah, you can. I have got, happily it's titanium white and not zinc white, because titanium white is more opaque than zinc white. Now I have got some gouache I could fall back on. If I need to, at any point completing this page, if I need to bring in my gouache, if I run out of my acrylic, or if there's a better colour or whatever, I can use my gouache at the same time. And you can use these two paints together. They're both water-based, but they do have different binding properties. Now, acrylic is mainly plastic polymer as a binding, and your gouache is mainly gum arabic. Now, that doesn't affect much when you're using them, but in terms of it drying and its lasting properties, it's not very good to mix them. So if you're an actual artist, you wouldn't do this, but we're just doing colouring books, aren't we? So yeah, they might just dry differently. And I think, the properties of gouache are totally lost once you've added acrylic. It just really becomes acrylic then. And they say, I've just read that gouache is probably better to use on top of acrylic, which would be fantastic, for my detail and stuff like that if I need to. But the other way around, less so, because gouache tends to be a bit more textured. That's what I've just read. Now, I wouldn't have said that, because having used gouache, I wouldn't have said it were any more textured than any other paint I've used. Not, when you squeeze it out, in terms of on the paper maybe. Gouache is quite good if you want to use something really kind of versatile, because you can use it. It's very beautiful, very thin, and it's beautiful thicker as well. I tend to use it thicker. I've got watercolour if I want to use something like watercolour. So when I use other paints, I tend to like to use them a bit thicker. So that's what I'm going to do today, but I'm going to stick with acrylics unless I need to go to the gouache. Oh, by the way, talking of opacity, so what would you think, what do you think could cover this? the black line work, because that's what I want to do. I want to be covering the line work today because this is a white rose. I don't want loads of black lines. So what, out of these two colours, I don't mean in terms of what I would use, but just generally, forgetting the rose for a second, which of these two colours do you think would cover the line work better? I would have always thought the green, but actually the white in this set of paints is more opaque. And that's because opacity of paints is all down to the pigment, apparently. So, for example, phthalo green isn't very opaque at all, whereas titanium white is. So that I found that interesting. And you can tell the opacity of your paints, of course, by the little square on the back. So you'll get some that show, let me find a semi-permanent one. Here we go, look. So the white is fully opaque. This lemon yellow is semi-opaque, and the green, phthalo green, is not opaque. Which is interesting, isn't it? Because I'm going to be using the green for the leaves. So, and I'll be mixing colours, obviously. I've just got a general set of 10, I think it is. So, you know, there has to be some mixing done for me to get the colours that I want. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. When I realised, I was like, oh, wow, that's opaque, but that's not. Interesting, very interesting. So yeah, solid black is opaque in terms of the square. So yeah, I've got these 10 colours. I don't, when you zoom in on the image, on my reference image, I've got these two reds, look, cadmium red hue and permanent rose. When you zoom in, if you want it to be exact, there's ever so slightly a touch of pink in those white petals, just ever so slightly. So I don't know whether I would actually use the reds today or not. I may do just a tiny dot. But I think, looking at these colours, because that's what we're here to talk about anyway, into colouring. Looking at these colours, I think I'll use most of them today. I definitely want a green colour. I'm so lucky because the background, I want to do the background the same colour as the Yorkshire flag, which happens to be almost exactly this kind of cerulean blue. I would say it's a tiny bit more zingy. Again, I'll show you a picture on screen. But it's, you know, that if I use that straight, it would be okay. Yorkshire people would recognise it as the blue on the Yorkshire flag. But I've got other blues. I've got obviously reds I can add to it, and yellows to change the sort of shade. I've got these sort of ochres and browns, which will help me add shading and depth, I think, to my white. That's what I'm thinking. And I've got another yellow there, and obviously I've got my white, and then the phthalo green will give me a start for my leaf colour. So it's fun to do this if you're interested in like colour theory and maybe getting better at colour theory and stuff like that. Having a really simple set of paints like this, a 10 paint set. I mean, everybody knows that you only need these colours, and you can make every colour in the world, can't you? More or less, you know, with red, blue, yellow. But yeah, a simple set of 10 paints is a great start, I think, to helping you sort of mix the colours that you really, really want. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And if you're interested in trying paints in your colouring books, why not? But work along with me if you wish. I'll get my paint squeezed out. I won't bore you with all that, and we'll crack on. Alright, so I've added some paint to my palette. Be aware that acrylic paint does dry in the palette, so you don't really need to do this ahead of time. You should just really squeeze it out as and when you need it, and only the amount that you need. But because I'm working on a video, I like to I don't want to be stop-starting a lot, and editing a lot out, so I've kind of got myself my stall set out, if you like. So that's just to the side of me. And I can bring this a little closer to me. I'm sorry you're on an angle, but I do like using my easel when it comes to painting and things like that. It's just easier to see what I'm looking at, I think, anyway. So right, off we go. Now I've just squeezed out this cerulean blue into that palette, and it's just exactly the same colour. It's just the right colour for the background. So I'm not going to add anything to it yet. The brushes I'm using today, I'm using my old watercolour brushes. Well, they're Aquafine from Daler-Rowney. And, you know, I prefer my Princeton's for my watercolours, but I'll use these for my acrylics. They're, well, you know, they've been used for all sorts, masking fluid and everything, these. That's a Princeton there. That's the finest brush I have. So, yeah, I don't know whether you should use proper brushes. Remember, I'm a beginner, so you need to have a look at expert tutorials by actual artists if you want to know, you know, actual knowledge. My videos are only ever supposed to make you feel like you're not on your own trying these things out. So I'm going to dive in. I'm going to be bold. I'm going to go in with this thicker, this larger brush. And remember, I like to use acrylic. Well, I like to use paint, non-watercolour paint, quite thickly. I'm sure I must have used acrylic at some point. In fact, I have used acrylic paints. I got some acrylic paints for use with Everly. So me and Everly have used acrylic paints together. They've all kind of got all dried up now and that. But they're in her hobby kit upstairs. So I've added a little water to my palette. Quite a touch more. But I do like it quite thick, and this blue is pretty much perfect. So yeah, I may add to it, I may not. That's just look. I just got very lucky there. I love texture as well, so I wouldn't mind if I could work so thickly that I ended up with a bit of texture on the paper. You know, like the texture of oil. I would love to achieve that somehow. So I'm going to put it in as a flat base to start. And you know what? I'm going to trust the opacity of these paints. And I'm not bothered about going over lines, because I'm going to trust that I know some paints, some of the, like the green and that, isn't opaque, but the white I'm not going to worry about too much. I'm going to trust that it will cover the blue. We'll find out, won't we, together? So yeah, I've gone in with this big chunky brush to start. And like I say, I do like texture, so I won't mind some texture staying in this image, really. And you could use a smaller brush. I've got options there if I want to. I'm happy just to stick with this for now, for speed. Because do you know something? I've just filmed my completed pages video this morning, and I was saying on that, I've got, how many? Let me just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with this commitments. Whether they're collabs or buddies. And this is for me who's not supposed to be doing that. You know, I'm not supposed to be committing for my own sake to anything. And I've managed to have, starting my month off with 7, I think. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So I said in my completed pages video, what I'd like to do is just crack them all off at start of month. And do you know what I found last month? At the end of the month, when I wanted to get things done, I filmed it for you guys. So I made it like, right, we're going to do this. I'm only going to give it an hour. I'm going to film it. It's going to be a challenge. And it helped me. I got 2 pages done doing that. So I'm taking the same approach. I've decided speed. And I'm going to get these knocked out, but not in a way that I don't care about them. I still want to be pleased with them. But something about filming for you, I think it just spurs me on a little bit, and I tend not to dwell on decisions for long. I make quick decisions when I'm filming for you guys, and often I end up liking the results. Sometimes I think, well, that could be better if you weren't filming, you weren't slightly distracted by the filming process and chatting and whatnot. But not enough to make me think it wasn't a success. I really liked doing that at the end of last month. So that's what I'm here doing today with this image. So I like it when the paint gets a bit sticky. You know, it starts to dry and get a bit sticky, and then pulling through it with your brush is a little bit harder, and then you get, you know, like streaky bits, or you get the brush marks in it. I love that. So I might build on that as well. I could have even used less, because obviously this is quite transparent. You can still see the lines through, and that's because I've added quite a bit of water to start with. I'm wondering how much this page will crinkle as well. What do we think? So we'll find that out together as well. But yeah, this is, so we all use acrylic markers. Almost all of us have a set of acrylic markers, I think. And I love a full page colour with acrylic marker. You'll have seen quite a few videos of mine. If you watch regularly, you'll have seen a few videos of mine where I like to do full pages in acrylic markers. And I generally flat colour with them. But it is nice to have a paintbrush in my hand. I'm no artist, I always say this. And, you know, you guys are really kind. Every time I try something, you're like, oh, you're an artist, Joe. And the people who disagree with you, they just keep quiet, which is the correct thing to do. But I appreciate you for it, because it does spur me on, you know. It really does. And I ain't got time to waste now. I've left anything arty 30 years since I was at school or college, and I'm so regretful that I left it that long. I shouldn't have done that. I should have... I think the blue at the back of this flag is a touch darker, so I'm going to add a little bit of ultramarine. Just a touch. Hopefully that's not too much. Yeah, I wish I'd have... I wish I would have not left art behind me. I enjoyed it at school, and obviously I did graphic design at college, which is, you know, reasonably arty, I suppose. There's parts of it where we studied art. But yeah, I really wish I would have kept painting, drawing, colouring, whatever, creating. I wish I'd have carried on being creative. And I were, before I got, a few years ago, I was into prop making. So, you know, like movie prop replicas, not actual props for movies, but you know, like if somebody wanted a Terminator head or a Predator head, normally sci-fi and horror. I got right into, I worked with a guy and we created them together. He did most of the casting, although I made quite a few clay moulds, because I'm not bad at sculpting clay. So I made quite a few clay moulds that we could then cast multiple sort of models from. But I loved the painting of them with the airbrush. And yeah, so I was doing that for a year or two. And that fed me creativity and kind of woke it back up, if I'm being honest. So that were, so sort of, say 2017, 2018. But then, you know, that lasted a couple of years, and then I didn't do anything for a while. Yeah, this is more like the blue. And I like seeing, so I'm working now with like a little, I've not mixed the paint, you know, the two blues, I've not mixed them together really well, and I love that. So now I'm working in this kind of, you know, kind of like doing little X's. And I love that way more than just flat colouring. It's not for everybody. I might move down a brush size now, so I can make even, you know, I can make that even more of a feature. I love it, those different blues. No perfect blending here, sadly, for you fans of the perfect blend. But luckily we have Karen, My Colourful Country Life, for that. She's amazing, isn't she? And Shell. Right, I kind of like this like glow that I'm leaving behind, but I think what I'd like to do is add, do I want to add a little bit of white? I'm not finished yet. I'm still, you know, this is what I like about it. You can treat acrylic. And that's it. I must have used it before because it feels familiar to me. I've used something that isn't oil, or maybe it was oil in college. I can't remember, but it's 30 years ago. I can't remember what I did last week. But I like that you can treat this, when you're using it thickly, a bit like oil paints, you know, or your oil pastels if you use them. I like thick paints. Yeah, it's crinkling. Now, I wonder if it'll stay that way. Because I'm using such a thick layer of paint, I would imagine it would be tempted to stay crinkled, because I think it's a lot easier for paper to flatten itself back out when you're using sort of thin watery paint. So we'll see, won't we? I'll tell you something I have discovered using gouache in colouring books and watercolour in colouring books. Gouache doesn't go through and affect the paper in that crinkly way quite like watercolour, and that's obviously because I'm not using it as thin as water, am I? You can choose your thickness, can't you, with gouache, but it doesn't definitely even use thin for some reason. Something about the properties, it doesn't go through the paper as much. I did sort of recognise that, which is handy to know if you're in colouring books, isn't it? So say if you want to use watercolour but you're finding it's not for you, maybe try gouache instead. Yeah, I definitely want to do something. I don't like the transparency round here, so I want to add some blue to a little white. So I want to pick some white up. I don't mind my paint palette getting all mixed up. That's the idea of having a paint palette. You know, you'll pull. Now that is definitely, you can see how that's given it a different tone, hasn't it? Because I've added white, so it's kind of muting it. And again, with all my all my colouring projects, trust the process, because this isn't going to look like this in a couple of minutes. It'll be ever changing. Ever changing. Love that. I love all those different colours, you know, like by not mixing the paint properly. I love that. Oops. God, Joe, you went on thick there, didn't you? Wow. Calm down, lass. Calm down. I've got brown paper under this page, by the way. And I've taped it. It's like literally a 1 or 2 millimetre border going around the outside. 1, because I just like to keep the page flat. And 2, I don't really like painting to the edge of the paper, because, you know, then you end up going on to the next page and stuff like that, or leakages. So I always just prepare really well when I'm going to do something messy like this. But yeah, I'm loving putting this little bit of texture in there. Look, you see. And then you can go back into your whiter stuff if you want, you know. Why not? But I have I'm playing fast and loose with these paints being opaque, aren't I? Because I'm gonna have to come up to the edge and hope, because I haven't masked it off. I've got several different masking fluids recommended by, you know, colouring book artists in general, and I don't know what it is with me and Hanna Karlzons masking fluid in Hanna Karlzons books. I've tried it where I hardly leave it on for any time at all, and it just always takes paper. So if I can get away with not masking, I will try to avoid masking. That's sort of my thing now. Masking fluid anyway. A bit more of that ultramarine just to help me blend into that corner. Oh, look how brave I am. Yeah, I love it. Don't really want to see any paper through it. I kind of want it to be nice and thick and textured. No idea what this is going to dry like. This is a real experiment, but you know, I laugh in the face of fear. Yeah. Not really, not so much. There we go. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah, I love it when it starts to dry and it's quite thick. It gets quite sticky. I might enjoy oil paints, maybe, but they take an age to dry, don't they? So that I do not fancy. You know. Right, that is what I'm going with as my background. I'm happy that it represents the back colour of the sort of the colour in the back of the Yorkshire flag. I'm sorry about the noise when you're cleaning your brush. I shouldn't really talk, then I can edit it out, but hopefully you'll forgive me. Right, I'm gonna let this dry for a short while, and I will be back. I don't have to let it dry completely, because I'm quite confident that as long as I'm careful with my brush at the edge, I can, you know, even if it's still a little bit wet, I can work that out. But it is better if it's a little bit dry around here. So I'll be back. For you, it's just going to be a split second. I had to find my hairdryer out. I don't dry my hair anymore these days. So it took some digging out, did that? But yeah, I just, on sort of a medium heat setting, I just dried it just to speed it up. Now, I wondered while I was doing it, does that make me crinkling like permanent? Is it like doing a permanent wave in your hair? Have I now set these crinkles in? Normally, when I use water media on a page, if it's quite crinkled afterwards, and I've not had this often because I generally use it in books where the paper can take it, but if I have had crinkling, I iron the page afterwards. I stick it between the sort of a pillowcase, and I just, you know, a medium sort of heat setting on the iron, and I just pass it over very lightly, and that normally takes the creases out. Now, I don't know whether I'd be able to do that with paint I've used as thickly as this, but we might see at the end. If this dries crinkled, I may run the iron over it, and if so, I'll take you with me when I do that. I was thinking while it were drying, I want to work from the back forward, because I'm using paint. I want to be working from the back, so then when I'm doing painting these lines on, you know, the painting that I'm putting on top is going to define the line, if that makes sense. So if I started in the middle or anything like that, I'd then be painting over what I don't want to paint over. So I'm going to work from the outside in, and I'm going to start with the leaves. Now, this phthalo green is, oh, you can see there, look. This phthalo green here is too cool, if you like, for me. I just wanted to warm it up a little bit. So you can see I've just added a tiny bit of yellow, lemon yellow so far, and I think I'm heading in the right direction. So that's all I'm doing, is I'm looking, I'm thinking, if I wanted it cooler, I could add more blue. If I wanted it warmer, I'm going to add some yellow or maybe some ochre, we'll see. But yeah, so far I'm going to dip in there. And again, I ain't bothered if the colours don't mix properly. I kind of like that look, so I'm just going to play it by ear and just try and work a little bit quickly. But I am gonna use a lot smaller brush. I'm making it in an exception today, not because I don't love the illustration. I think it's gorgeous what she's done. I'm just gonna try and, you know, I'm doing it for Yorkshire Day, so but I will try where I can to stick to her illustrations, but it is going to be adapted a little bit, that's all I will say. I ain't bothered about the Yorkshire Rose being like the Yorkshire Rose on the flag. That's not what I'm going for now. I just wanted the background to be sort of inspired by that. Now I just want to make sure it looks like a Yorkshire Rose, which is you know, a rose. It's a particular rose. Now we have a white, the Yorkshire Rose is white, the White Rose of York, and that's because it was the emblem for the House of York. You know the whole War of the Roses thing in the Tudors. You might, if you've done history or anything, it might have been mentioned. But yeah, I forget what, the House of Lancaster was obviously the Lancashire Rose, and I'm going to use a smaller brush. Obviously, both the Lancashire, the Lancs and the Yorks, they had a big battle and a war and all that, you know, overruling the country, I think, from what I remember. So yeah, the Lancashire rose is red, so sometimes when if you see a white Yorkshire rose, but the outer petals are red, that's like a combination of both, suggesting sort of peace, I think. But yeah, the Lancs, as the next county to us, you see, the Lancs have, the Lancashire people, they are a red rose. And we obviously had the Battle of the Roses, the War of the Roses, between Yorkshire and Lancashire. So I'm just dipping in any greens now, just to sort of, and I'll do the same as I did with the blue. I'm going to get the base colour down, and you'll see all that you'll see all the line work through it. And remember, this is that green that's not opaque, and neither is the yellow that I'm adding to it. So this is going to be a little bit of a tougher job. I wonder what would happen if I added a touch of white, but I think it would be, I don't know whether it would be the right colour. But we'll see. That's super thick on there, isn't it? So I'll take some of that. So yeah, that just shows the difference in different pigments. It's not to do with like the thickness of the paint or the colour, because I would have assumed darker colour easier to cover up black line work. Absolutely not, quite clearly. That's not the case. I don't have any particular light source in this picture. I'm looking at more as a graphic image than, you know, a realistic image where there might be a light source. So I'm not worried about that. I like to think the Yorkshire people and the Lancashire people get on quite well now. In Yorkshire, we're known as tykes, Yorkshire tykes. What are you known as in your county? If you're in a county in England or maybe in another country, do you have sort of nicknames if you're from Texas or Idaho? What are you known as? Do you have a name for people from your county? So the Yorkshire accent is quite a Marmite thing. When we say Marmite in the UK, we mean it's a love or hate thing. You either, Marmite is a spread that we put. It's like a yeast extract. It sounds disgusting, doesn't it? It's like Vegemite in Australia, I think. But we have Marmite, and yeah, it's the Yorkshire accent, I think, is quite Marmite, but that's the case for a lot of accents, I think. But I think some people like it, and some don't. But I do know that I've got a bit of a telecommunications background, customer service and that. I've had loads of different careers. If you ever think, hang on a minute, I thought she did that, it's because I've done loads of stuff. And yeah, I know that they will place, or they don't do it now, all call centres, UK-based call centres are no longer UK-based. You can even phone people now, but yeah, back when I was in that sector, it was companies wanted the call centres in places like Yorkshire and Newcastle because, you know, like Middlesbrough, Northern, because the survey says that it's an accent that people trust, or it feels like you're talking to somebody on your level. So that's why they did research and worked out that call centres would be best placed in places like that in the north, sort of working class areas, because people feel, I don't know, I guess comfortable. So in that respect, it's not, you know, I'm not ashamed of my accent. I think what happens when you've got a Yorkshire accent, and I don't know whether other Yorkshire people will agree with me, but I think people underestimate maybe intelligence level. I would say that. I think some people, I mean, I've mentioned in other videos that I'm making a lot of mistakes with my vocabulary through the perimenopause. I'm noticing that myself in edit, and these are words that I'm totally familiar with, and I used to be quite articulate. So, but putting that aside for a second, I think the Yorkshire accent, you can sound a little bit simple, and we don't view it that way because it's just a regional dialect. It's just our accent. But I think some people who are not familiar with it, to them, or to sort of maybe to southern people, we might sound a little bit simple. And I think often sort of in business, I used to work for the Ministry of Defence. My telecommunications job was in the military sector. So I'd be in Whitehall, where the head of our armed forces are in London, right there on the embankment. So I used to have an office down there, and I often thought I often felt a little bit underestimated, and it always was. I could see surprise on people's faces because I've excelled in all my roles that I've done in my life, all my jobs, believe it or not. And I always it never failed to surprise me how surprised people were by me. And I think that was an accent-based thing. And also because most of my life, not all of my life, but most of my life, I've been overweight. And I also think the same can be said for if you are overweight. I think sometimes people think, for some reason, that being larger is you somehow not as switched on. I'm only talking about a minority of people. I don't think everybody thinks this way, but it's something that I've noticed being both a person who is larger and also a person that is from the north. But yeah, I love surprising people, and I've said it before, I love it when people underestimate me and think I'm a little bit slow. And something as I've realised, and it's happened in colouring space as well. It's happened in the workplace in the last few years. When I was, after running my own business for a couple of years, I went back into the workspace as an employee, and my God, how things had changed. And you go into a new place now with younger people in office environment, and they have, I don't know, I just got the feeling they thought I'd just put down my knitting and decided to do it. They just give me no credit for being almost 50 and having a lot of experience. But I don't know, as you get older, I think people discount you at workplace as well. Unless you've been there a while and you've built your reputation. But if you go in new, I think a lot of the younger crowd, and I've experienced it with colourists as well. Sometimes I've had let's say debate with other colourists, and I notice that they talk to me like I'm stupid, and that's because I don't know what the reason is. It's only happened actually with one with one person. But yeah, I don't know why they think I'm a little bit slack or something. I don't know what I've done to give them that impression. Maybe it's because I'm really light-hearted and jovial, and I joke about quite a bit. But yeah, I'm also switched on. So I think it shocks them when when I'm able to defend myself, shall we say. Don't like bullies. Do not like bullies, and I see it. I mentioned it in another video recently, particularly on Facebook, and I just think, who are you talking to? And it's not me, because I don't interact much on Facebook, but I see people responding to other people, and I just think, wind your blooming neck in. But yeah. So yeah, I think the accent is often misjudged sometimes. Because we don't say full words, we chop bits off as words. We say we're off to shop. We don't say we are going to the shop. We say we're off to shop. And it's just a dialect. And I think it's quite nice to have a regional dialect. And I know it's same for Americans. And all countries really, I bet it's the same. I'm just talking about Yorkshire today, aren't I? So you can see what I'm doing with these leaves. I've kind of got lost in it because I'm chatting to you at the same time. But I'm just building up layers, and I'm deciding kind of where I want little lights bits and things like that. I'm taking too long. It's because I'm chatting. So let's get moving. Right. And I'm adding in a bit more of this is cadmium yellow. that I'm adding in, because that offers me, let's have a look. Yep, semi-opaque, so I've got a little bit more opacity from that cadmium yellow, but I still love, I like putting a dash of this phthalo green back in like that. You know, in some of the sort of nooks and crannies, I quite like that. And I'm loving the texture. If you are somebody who's come into colouring and you've been trying to, you know, sort of emulate the people that you admire, which is a lovely way to start your journey into colouring. Definitely lots, you know, following tutorials, loads of wonderful colourists, especially people like I mentioned, Karen, doing gorgeous tutorials and wonderful pencil colouring. She's got so much pencil knowledge as well. I imagine you're already following her, so, but if you're not, definitely Karen at My Colourful Country Life, amongst others. But yeah, if you struggle with working smooth blends and things like that, you know, you don't have to, right? You know, you can, you know, textures can be your friend as well, and it can be fun. So don't be scared of texture. Enjoy a little bit of texture if you want. There's something quite freeing about having a little bit of texture in your pages. I just really want to cover the line work, which is going to take, like I say, some effort, I think. There we go. Hello, sunshine. Where have you been? I know where he's been. He's been upstairs, laid on our bed, looking out a window, because that's the only place in the house he can see out of the window. And he's waiting for his daddy to come home, aren't you? Yeah? It's Rocket I'm talking to. It'll move a lot quicker once I get off this sleeve section. I kind of want this first layer to dry, so what I put on top will then be more opaque. And that's the only thing when you're using paint more thickly like this. Your brush, that's the thinnest brush I've got. It's going to be thick on the end. You don't get to, you know, you'd have to water it down to get really fine line work. So that is, I'm happy with my leaves as they are now. You know, this is my first sort of layer. So I'll give that a quick whiz with the air dryer and I will come back. Ooh, before I do that as well, guys, have you noticed it's starting to flatten out? So isn't that wonderful? I'm not even going to need to iron this, I don't think. Can you see how the crinkling's improved already? And that's before I've dried these green bits. So happy days. Right now, I'd rather not use black. So I'm thinking about my white area now, and on this image I don't really want to use black. So how am I gonna create a colour for the white petals to indicate shade? Now you can see Hannah's put in a little bit of line work to indicate where the shade would be there, but this is all going to get covered, hopefully. Fingers crossed. So how do I indicate that, you know, I'm not going to use a grey because I don't want to add black. So I've got my white. I think the raw umber and my yellow ochre will come in handy here. So I've got them in my palette already, and I'm just going to do a little bit of mixing. I know it'd be handy if you could see my palette as well, but I just don't have that kind of space. So you can see there, I've got my white, and then I've added a little bit of yellow ochre, and I've also added some yellow ochre and raw umber to that one. And between these colours, hopefully I'll get the white that I want. Because, you know, is it going to be pure white? It sure looks pure white when you look at the image, doesn't it? I can see if I zoom in, you can see it on your screen. If I zoom in, you know, there is darker colours there, sort of like a grey or a buff. When you really zoom in and look at it, I'm guessing it would be kind of like a warm grey colour, that. But I'm reluctant to add a chunk of black. I don't even have black in that set, you know, but I've got it in gouache. But I'm going to see how I fare just using these more creamier ochres and browns. See how we go. No expert, no idea what I'm doing. We're in this together though. That's nice. It's actually not, it's not pure white, that. It's just ever so slightly off. Now, how do I want to do this? Do I want to start with the shaded bits and work out to the... Yeah, that would seem sensible, wouldn't it? There's going to be lots of brush washing here. Let's see how we fare. Let's try one petal at a time so I can get a sense of how I'm going to do this. And I can dip in the raw umber. Like there's no pure colours left in my palette because they've all got a little bit of something mixed in now. And I'm going to use the same technique, you know, texture. Don't mind texture. Bit of that yellow ochre maybe. Too much. It's too much. Too much, too much. Start to get paler. That's what we want. Start to get a little paler. It's covering up that line work, of course, because let's have a look at our opacities. The yellow ochre is opaque, the raw umber is opaque, and the titanium white is opaque. So we're good. That's why it's not taking as much effort as the leaves did. So it should things should speed up a tiny bit. While I've got this colour, you know, rather than clean it off, I am going to actually move on and do this one as well. Let's get some of that dark colour in. So that's raw umber with a tiny bit of yellow ochre and white. There's all sorts on this brush now. And then if I shake, it's because, you know, nearly 50. I said I was 50 on a video the other day. That's me already rounding it up. I'm not 50 till November. I'm going to be going over this with a paler white. I guess this is almost like I'm underpainting. In fact, that's not a bad idea to do it this way. It's lovely to use the brush just to make that sort of sweeping. I think this is going to work out okay, guys, you know. I know this doesn't look white at the moment, but if I really, really clean my brush really, really well, and then if I dip in the white, brush, not put it straight into the paint. I could do with drying the brush off because the paint is the right thickness, but I've just added more water by cleaning the brush, if that makes sense. Yeah, I'm liking how this is going to work, I think. And I will dry. I think I will let it dry like this, and then I will go in and I'll put a shock of white on it, if that makes sense. Yes, I think this is the way I'm going to go. So, famous artists from Yorkshire. How about, we've just lost David Hockney. He's a proud Yorkshireman, or he was a proud Yorkshireman. A lovely character as well. David Hockney. Do you know, before he died, he were working on his next sort of series of artworks, and he were using AI. He was experimenting, because he was quite experimental all the way through his art life. And he was experimenting with AI art, you know, using AI in his own arts, which I find really interesting, because we always think all artists will be very anti-AI, but he was looking at ways he could embrace it, which I think is quite interesting. I don't know how I feel about it, but I find that interesting that he was doing that. So yeah, David Hockney, you know, one of the world's, certainly in contemporary times, you know, one of the world's most famous artists. We have Henry Moore, is a famous sculptor. He was born in he was born in Castleford, I believe, which is where I grew up. I weren't born in Castleford, I'm Leeds born. When you're born in Leeds, you are a loiner. That's what you're known as. So I am a loiner through and through. I'm going over this line work here because the Yorkshire rose doesn't have these elements here are actually what's in the centre of the Yorkshire rose. So I will make sure I take Hannah's inspiration when I get here, and I will paint what she has there will look lovely in the middle, you know, in this area here. But for now, I'm just pretending they don't exist. So yeah, Henry Moore, wonderful sculptor, and is it Barbara Hepworth? In Wakefield, we have the Hepworth Gallery. I think she's Yorkshire, born and bred. So yeah, Yorkshire, because it's a beautiful county, you see, I think it's inevitable that if you're a creative in any way, you're going to be inspired by the landscape around you. And it is truly beautiful. When you get into the rural areas of Yorkshire, it is really, really something else. There's still parts of Yorkshire that look like old England, you know, in the days maybe of people like Henry VIII. You know, you can still get a shot of hills and fields that aren't, you know, they're not mountain remote areas, the countryside, but they still look pretty much untouched by humans, which is lovely. It's always lovely, isn't it? So yeah, I was born in Leeds and till about 8, and then raised in Castleford, which is next to Pontefract. So Pontefract has a castle. So it had a significant castle, still there. You know, the ruins of it. A gorgeous castle, and obviously Castleford being the next town, that's where the castle's ford was, I guess. So that's why it was called Castleford. Like a lot of places in the UK and in Yorkshire now, sadly, there's some very, very rough areas. It's just the same. You know, it's nothing specific to this, to Castleford or any other town in Yorkshire or the UK. It's just the same all over now, isn't it? A lot of crime, a lot more crime than there were years ago, sadly. And you no longer have anybody policing it. And I literally mean not at all. So robberies and things like that. As far as I can tell, if you get something robbed, your car's stolen, all you get is a crime number now. Nobody looks into it. Nobody tries to find your car or the people responsible. It's all money-making insurance stuff into it, you know. That's the way I see it anyway. In fact, what I find incredible is when my dad passed away a couple of years ago, he had a car which I think he'd led me to believe he'd paid for. So I thought it was his car. So when he passed away and we emptied the house, I took the car, and it was sat at my work for ages because they had room for it there in car park where I used to work, and then it was sat on the drive here, and I used it. I used to take the dog for a walk in it, so I was using it. But and then all of a sudden, 2 years down the line, this wasn't long ago, police phoned me up looking for this car because my dad had it on finance. So he'd not paid for it. It was on finance. I should have really checked, but I just took his word for it and thought it were, you know, his ownership. I insured myself on it. Of course I did. You don't need, you know, it doesn't, you can insure yourself on anybody's car, can't you? So I insured myself on it. But yeah, they were looking for this car, and I'm like, oh God, I didn't even realise it were on finance. And they were fine with it. They were like, oh no, it's understandable, don't worry about it. We just need to recover it for the finance company. And I thought, you know, ain't that bloody typical? So they got in touch with me to try and find this car, which must have taken them ages to track me down because I've moved about 4 times since. And they'd located it and found me, you know, where I was. I think they'd phoned my brother because they had my brother listed as next to kin. So he says, oh, my sister's got it, you know, and give him my number. So they tracked me down. And I just thought, they were fine. They didn't care. Do you know what I mean? It was just that they have to look for it for finance companies. And I thought, do you know what? If it had been my car and I'd have had it nicked, they wouldn't have even bothered trying to find it. But for a finance company, yeah, they're straight on it. Just absolutely sucks. Something definitely wrong in the world today. Do you know, there's a phrase like grumpy old man in this country, like when you get to a certain age, you just moan about everything. And it's happening with me. It's happening with me. You can just see everything that's not right. Well, I'm enjoying this painting. Can you see it coming together? This is obviously too dark, but it's going to get lighter and lighter with more layers. And I like the thickness I'm getting by building those layers. And I'm confident it will flatten out. You know, now I've seen it do that on the blue. Really, really having quite a lot of fun now. And I might put some more dark areas in there, you know, come back in. I'm going to get this coloured like a base, just like I've done everywhere else. And then I'll come back in and add, you know, darker colours and shadows and things. And definitely I'm going to come in with pure white. So at some point, just feeling my way at the moment. It's hard because I don't want it to just be a ton of white. I want to see features in the, you know, the difference in the petals and things. And that's why I'm making sure I'm putting the contrast in nice and early, if you like. I've never done this before, so I'm just winging it. This is me winging it. This is definitely going to be a video. I should maybe do a voiceover at the start and say this is maybe a video to put in on it background, because it's just me wittering. So if you just like that, that company in the background, which I do. And that's why I talk so much when I'm filming, because I can't have my TV on. Normally I'd be painting and listening to somebody else. But I tell you what, I didn't think I'd be starting this page today, and already I'm loving the idea that it's going to be finished today. That's brilliant. So what I am going to do is, right, you're my witnesses, guys. My plan is now, firm plan. This is 1st of August. Have I been saying October all day? This is 1st of August. And I am gonna I will have done this page up first. Tomorrow is the 2nd. I'm going to pick another page, and that's going to get done on the 2nd. Done in one day. I've got 7 commitments, as I said, so that's it. I'm going to do all them in first week of August, one each day. How about that then? Do you think it's achievable? And then, can you imagine, I've done all my commitments. I've already got 7 pages completed for the month. Woo woo! And then I can just please myself for 3 weeks. Literally, if I don't do anything else, that would be okay. It'd be okay anyway, I know, but you know what I'm saying. I can't imagine being able to do an airy page in a day, but, you know, this filming for you guys while I'm doing stuff is working for me, I think. It just keeps me focused. Oops. I think what I'll do is, you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to pause the camera so I've got enough sort of storage on my phone, and I'll be back when I've done what I've done here all over. I'm onto the centre part now, which, as I mentioned, I'm really trying to stick to the Yorkshire rose as a flower. So I'm taking out some of this line work. Like I said, I don't normally like to do that for a project like this, but I am doing. I'm kind of getting, I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable with the paintbrush in my hand now, so I'm working a little bit quicker without too much sort of fuss. Oops. I'm not really worried about the centre so much, because I've got some lovely, like, I don't know what they call them, bits in the middle of the flower that are orangey yellow. Like what Hannah had drawn around this area, these little bits. So I'm taking them out. Everything's going to get another layer of paint because I'm taking it a lot lighter than this. So you know, like when I haven't got like perfect coverage, not bothered. I'm trying to sort of use the shape of the brush, you know, so you can sort of depress it a little more in the thicker bits, then lift it gently. A bit like you do when you're doing petals or leaves on watercolour. And it doesn't, not every leaf has to be identical to the next. I know nature tries really hard to make that happen. But you know, this isn't nature, this is our depiction of nature, if you like. I've laid out my plans in a way, haven't I? So now I'll give it just not too long, but I'll give it a short while to just dry a touch. And then what I want to do is, my plan is to then work from the outside in again, ending with the detail in the centre. So I'm going to really go back to the leaves now, and I'm going to try and just make sure the edges are nice and crisp if I want them crisp, or I might add a little bit of extra detail, and I'll work my way in again doing that. And obviously when I get to the white rose this time, I want to be using a lot of pure white. But I don't mind if it stays a little bit of a creamy white, because I just think that makes it more interesting. But yeah, I'll just work inwards, ending with the detail here, and that's as much as it'll take. Something else I've noticed as well is these outer petals, I think on a Yorkshire rose, would appear yet again sort of crossing the in-between of these two petals. So you see, like, it's happened here, and then this petal crosses the in-between of these two petals, whereas I think these are placed wrong for a Yorkshire rose or a Tudor rose. They would be more like there. Do you see what I mean? So it's not perfect Yorkshire rose, but I definitely think that certainly the inner part is exactly how we would do a Yorkshire rose, but the outer petals are just placed directly behind, whereas I think they should be offset. I'm not saying it's wrong in the illustration, I'm just talking about for me transforming it into a Tudor rose. Do you know what would be good to use here? Acrylic markers now, because they would allow me to control, you know, that I won't have a right thick end with an acrylic marker. I could get loads of fine detail, but I don't want to do that because I want to push myself. I want to push myself a little bit, so I want to kind of stick with using my paints. People put wet towels and wet palettes under. You can buy palettes that stay wet, can't you? That go under your paints somehow, but I think that's enough. If I'm going to do it, I'll just do it like that. So I'll go round just like that and do all the leaves now. Well, guys, the husband is an hour or two away from home. So cheers to the weekend. If you're enjoying a little glass of wine like I am. I think it's just after 5, which I think's okay for a Saturday. So yeah, I can't wait till he gets home, and I want this done by then. So let's crack on. This is pretty much dry now. Yeah, love it. So now I'm going to go in and I want to make it white. I want it to look like a white rose. So I've got my base, and I've no idea how I'm gonna go about doing it. Well, I'm just figuring it out as I go. So cheers, bottoms up, and let's crack on. Nice little Pinot Grigio. Here we go. Right, I want some pure white now. I haven't used half as much paint as I thought I would, because I thought we were going to use it quite thickly. I thought I'd use a lot, but I squirted out too much of the yellow possibly, but otherwise and the green, I went in with the second lot green, and I think I could have possibly left that. So I've still got that off-white colour, which I'll use, because it won't mix with the darker colour now. I've only got pure white and that off-white. Could end up taking away a lot of the shadow colour that I've already put in, couldn't I? So I just want to, yeah, this is going to work out okay, I think. So I've got my nice white edge, but I want to make sure I'm coming in with a bit of that off-white as well. And I'll keep it a little bit not so opaque, so some of that darker colour can come through still. I don't want to lose that, do I? I've put it on after all for a reason. And that's a little too much. So let me just wash my brush, dry it off. Let me just take some of that back. Thank you. That'll do nicely. Never fear. Just finding my way, so it'll never be perfect. But I do want to get these edges a bit more crisp now. Do I want to highlight where the leaves, you know, the petals curling over like that? Do I want to make more of that, you know? I'll show you what I mean. And the bright white on the outside. Nice crisp edge. So what I mean is, do I want to pick out that edge again? Not that much. Once I've sorted out how I want to approach one petal, I'm sure it'll be easier then. This is that off-white. I don't think I do want to pick it out so strongly because these are supposed to be white petals. I just want to make sure that they stand out from the petal in front of them. That's the thing. See what I'm trying to do, can't you? Oh, I think that's enough. So maybe a little touch of the pure white. I know it probably don't look much different to you, but I can see the difference. That's it. A touch of the pure white on this little bit that curls over. Yes, like that. The people next door have just lit a barbecue. And he's got a right funny laugh, bless him. He goes, bless him. Came round yesterday, first time I spoke to him properly. Came round and asked me if I minded feeding his cat while they go on holiday. I said, course not. Very trusting. She says, yeah, we'll leave your keys to house. I'm like, knock yourself out. Nobody, I'm the opposite me. Nobody is getting left the keys to my house. And that's not because of lack of trust. That's because, you know, I don't know. Just maybe it is a lack of trust. But I don't want people blooming in my house. Same with tradespeople as well. You know, like some people will go to work and leave like a bathroom fitter in the house. Or a sparky. Not me. Still not white enough. That is for sure. So I need to kind of make a decision before I go too far with this. Right. It's like you need a tiny bit of that dark colour near the, you know, there. But you don't need it to... Working it out on the job. Working it out as we go. There, I think that's it. There we go. I think I'll carry on in that sort of vein. See how we progress. In a true, if I were doing it like from a photograph, you'd have, you know, your light source would be casting shadow in certain places. I'm not. This is more of a graphic image that I'm doing, I think. I wonder if I should have gone lighter to start with, but I just felt like I needed to put something down to cover the line work initially. I think that's probably what the aim was of that first layer of paint, just to give me a blank canvas. Oh, it's a sip break. Don't forget to hydrate if you're drinking this weekend, guys. Oh, yes. I love white. So I mean, I match my wine to my food usually, but if I'm just having a drink of wine like now, I'll be white in the summer, red in the winter. So you can see again what I'm doing with this step now then, can't you? Just taking it to its final lightness, hopefully. Making those edges nice and crisp with the neat titanium white. Neat apart from the dampness on the brush. Let's get that lip on again if we can. Oops, went a bit thick there. But the lovely thing is when you've got paint in your palette, you can undo and redo things. So yeah, it looks like we're going to be looking after a puss next door, which is appropriate for our theme, the light v dark this year. So I'll officially be a doggy mummy and a cat feeder, which sounds pretty perfect. The cat is a boy cat. He's very handsome. They did tell me the proper name for his coat, something tortoise shell, but he is called Loaf. I didn't ask why. And it's really nice that they asked us. I feel quite, because we don't really know him. Never said more than a few, passing words. Do you have a brown bin? How long have you lived here? And that sort of thing, just very minimal new neighbour chat. But you know what? Because I've got this weird social anxiety, I almost didn't answer the door to him. I tried to ignore it. I saw him on camera and I thought, oh God. Because, I'm dressed for doing stuff in my house. So I was going to try and ignore him. And then I thought, I can't. He was stood there looking at the house and my front window were open. I thought he probably heard me watching telly. So I answered the door and then you couldn't shut me up. This is one of my problems because I get that anxious socially nowadays. I just couldn't shut up. I told him I was going through menopause and everything by the end of the conversation. Told him how many drugs raids we'd had on the street. Told him why my garden's not growing as much veg this year. Told him my inside leg measurement. Told him everything. And he were really nice. He were just like, oh, don't worry. I went, this is the problem with me, James. You can't shut me up once I start. So that was it. I have a tendency to overshare. So yeah, just in passing, like sort of saying, I ain't done as much in garden this year. Me and my partner have been a bit ill, on and off through the year. Me and my husband. And then that led me to go, I'm just, you know what I mean? I'm just through menopause. It's been awful, James. He Must have been thinking, because they're a younger couple next door. Must have been thinking, Jesus, I wish I'd have come when husband were in. So funny. And then I overthink it for the rest of the afternoon. I'm like, oh God, what a blooming fool of yourself. But she, I was asking him what he does and that. He works in a lab. And she drives like a four-wheeler with a trailer on back, taking kids on cow safari on a little farm that's like got Highland cows and stuff. So they do a little cow safari. Oh, it's lovely. They've both got nice, interesting jobs. Then he wants my husband to look at his car. So my husband's sort of, he's had two trades in his life. He's been a car mechanic, which he did for many years, and he worked for Renault, and then he went and worked for an American car garage, which is, you know, a bit more specialised over here in the UK. So he did that for a bit, and then he was a sign fitter for a few years, and then he was a bathroom fitter, and he was blooming good at bathrooms, you know. His tiling is superb, absolutely superb. He's fantastic. So yeah, it says, James next door says, oh, hey, Greg's used to mechanic. I've got a problem with my car. I says, oh, he'll look at it, James. He loves helping people. And he does. He'll go around this weekend with my husband, and he won't shut up. He'll be out there 2 hours talking to him. Right, I don't think this is quite pale enough here. It's going on really thick, this, isn't it? I like it. Ah, it's getting bigger and bigger. I don't like it when that happens. The only bonus is, though, that it cuts the symmetry, which I don't mind. But yeah, don't like it when that happens. Look how much bigger than that is. Getting a bit warm. Sun comes round this side of the house in the evening, afternoon and evening, and it's roasting me alive a bit. I think I will put the fans on, and I'll carry on doing what I'm doing with this layer, and then I'll come back to you. This is where I've got to. I'm quite happy with the colour, but I don't think it's as easy as I thought to get. It's this bit here. Let me see if I can explain. It's getting the contrast back in these areas. Oh, maybe that's it. I just need to go in really sort of more precisely now. Yeah, okay, that's what I'm going to do then. And I have to have the paint a bit thinner so I can be more precise. I guess this is when gouache should have been good. But I'm going to stick with acrylics, and I'm going to stick with paint rather than paint pen. Paint pen would be quite easy to do this. So that is what I am going to do next. Then I'm just going to work my way around now. Just adding it in a bit more precisely. I need to be really careful I don't go too dark again, that's the thing. Otherwise I'm back and forth, you know. I need to go a lot less. Keep my brush clean. Keep wetting my brush so I can diffuse it. Because the paint's all still wet at the moment. Yes, not convinced. but it's going to be all right. Trust the process, whatever the process is. Have faith, Joe. Let's have a look on screen then at these reference pictures. So first of all, taking a look at the Yorkshire rose and the flag. So we just have a little crisscrossed yellow. So we're thinking yellow. And if I look at a real Yorkshire rose, if we take a look at one of them now, so I've got this sort of yellowy green centre and these very yellowy green kind of chartreusey stems, like a very pale greeny yellow, and then orange bits, which is what Hannah drew round here. Those little, I forget what they call them. Is it stamens? I don't know. The bits with the little polleny bits on the end. So I'm going to go for the more real looking Yorkshire rose, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do straight off the bat is I'm going to white out this area to start with. All right, Rocket. You can hear them next door having fun in garden. All you'll do is go out and bark at them, so I'm just mixing a green now. I just want to put something in there to start us off. It could have done with being a bit paler than that, but that's fine. I just want it to, oh no, this is quite nice actually. This is ideal. So I am gonna put this all over the centre. And diffuse it a little bit, because of course these colours aren't opaque. I've mixed a bit of green with a bit of yellow, so I'm going to build up some layers of that. I'll use a bit of my white. Yes. Looks like I'm making a disaster. Do not worry. Never fear. Oh, flipping neck. Alright, now I am making a mess. Diffuse, diffuse, diffuse. Can always go back over. It's quite nice to have that creamy yellow anyway. I've also got a much paler, really pale sort of some little something or other in the centre. I'm brilliant at explaining my usual articulation. Fantastic. Fantastic. I just want to make an orange. That's about right, that. Dip it. So I am gonna try and just, I'm gonna keep it quite graphic. Not worried about it looking realistic. Keep turning my brush so it doesn't get too uniform. Where I can, I'm just going to use my artistic license. I kind of want it thicker because I want them to stand out if I can. So why not? yeah, I'm using my artistic license to come in a bit closer and cover up some of that line work that's still showing through. But I'm loving that so far. That is about as much as I want of them. Gorgeous. Wonder if anybody's still with me. If you're still with me at this point, put the phrase Yorkshire pudding in the comments. And if you are still with me at this point and you put Yorkshire pudding in the comments, I'll give you a huge shout out. And if you've got an Instagram or a YouTube channel, I'll link it. I will link it in the description. So yeah, let me know in the comments Yorkshire pudding, and then put your Instagram or your YouTube channel, and on my next video I will link them in the comments. Link your social media in the comments. See if we can't spread the love. I appreciate you if you're still here, even if you're just listening in background while you're colouring, which is how I imagine most people watch my videos. Because I'm very chatty, I don't know whether my videos lend themselves very well to watching. Maybe a little bit of both, just listening and lifting your head up now and again. I'm really happy I've done this, you know. I've really enjoyed it, and I'm all about these one-day colours, one-session colours now. At the moment, anyway. I don't want to be taking weeks over a page or days. I just want to be, you know, one session. Now then, some of this pollen, I keep calling it pollen, I hope that's what it is. If it's not, and you're a plant biologist, I am so sorry. But some of this pollen, in fact, let me get my lemon yellow, just a little dot of that. Make sure my brush is clean, and I'm just going to dot it because these polleny bits have a nice sort of light yellowy centre to them, and I just want to see if I can't affect that just on a few of them. There we go. Right then, now it's time to take a look, because I'm definitely going to want to do some more work on it. But I just need to identify what that's going to be. So these petals need to be more defined in the centre. So let's do that and then take another look. So to do that, I need to, oops. You do have to work quite quickly because acrylic does dry in your palette. I kind of wish I had like a super white. You know, like some in art world, some people praise like there's some really black blacks, and people say, what's the blackest black in art and in paint and things like that. What's the whitest white? So I wish I had like a shock. I mean, I'm going to use it super neat, but I need to make sure my brush is super clean as well. Just want to take the white down a touch in the centre there. I'm just trying to challenge myself, you see. I could easily just take out my acrylic pens now and add loads more cool finishing touches and details, but I'm trying to complete a page in acrylic paint. I'm never happy unless I'm flying back seat my pants, am I me? Don't like making life easy for myself. I'm liking it though. And I think, you know, when I take the tape off and things like that, I'm wondering if I should have any flourishes, you know, like I love my dots. I don't mean dots necessarily, but I mean I don't know whether I'd like some gold touches, actually. Ooh, that'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Gold. Gold. I wonder if it's gone through. So that'll be interesting when I take the tape off and I'll show you the other side of the paper. I wonder if I did check. I'm not right bothered about the illustration on the other side. But yeah, I did actually have a look at it. Right, I need some clean water. I shall be back. Yeah, walking away and looking at it from a distance, I definitely think it's lacking contrast in these darker areas, you know, in these nooks and crannies. So I'm going in again. And this is just hopefully how I'll crispen it up. And now the layer underneath is dry. It shouldn't change the colour. This reminds me of doing that page that I did inspired by Van Gogh's work that we did for, I forget what it was now, Art in Colour. That's what we did. That was in June, I think. And I loved the outcome of that. But I loved looking close up at his work and seeing all the strokes, because he used his paint quite thickly. Sometimes very thickly. So all I'm doing now is I'm just going round and where I've got, you know, where I just want to neaten that edge. That's what I'm doing. Just with white paint on dry paint. And I think that makes the difference. I've just got to be careful not to put my hand in what I've just painted. Now, a lot of people may be watching this and, well, some people may be watching this and thinking, that's a lot of fussing. But do you know what? Once I've done it, it's done. So if I'd have done this in pencil, I'd have been here days, multiple days. And I don't think it would have been as fun. It wouldn't have been for me. I don't find pencil colouring fun at all. I like the outcome, and I think it can be very soft. It can be very, still and meditative. I can never say that, you know, but you can just sit and kind of like while away the hours, pencil shading, can't you? But I also find it really frustrating sometimes, me. So anytime I can work with something that's fun and quicker than pencil, for me, it's a little bit of a win-win, I have to say. Put my hand on there. That's why artists use them poles, isn't it? They put like I bet there's a fancy name for them. They put like they have a pole that they can put on the page, and then the rest of the. Oh yeah, that works. Oh yeah, I totally see why they do that now. That actually works. Yep. Yes, that definitely works. So, you know, go me, look at me, Michelangelo. This is the colouring equivalent to Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel. Did he paint the Sistine Chapel? It was Michelangelo, wasn't it? That gorgeous ceiling. I hope people know when I'm being sarcastic, you know. They say sarcasm is the lowest form of wit. And to that I say, you're probably right. Oh, I can smell their barbecue next door. I had to open back door to let Rocket out, so you might just hear them chatting away in the back. I live in it's almost like living in a chicken cage, you know, chicken hut. Very close in these tiny terraced houses. So when they're out in their back garden, they're basically only feet 1 or 2 feet from my back door, so you never feel quite. I mean, we've got high fences, so we don't see them, but yeah. Sometimes I have to say to my husband, hey, shh, bloody hell, neighbours will hear you. Yeah, I can live with this. I can live with it. I had no idea what it'd turn out like when I started. But yeah. I tell you what, this blooming pole thing, whatever it is, I'm going to Google the name in edit and I'll put it on the screen. What artists call this stick that they use to rest on when they don't want to rest on the paint. Oh my God. They were so clever, weren't they, the old masters? You ever seen what bloody people like Michelangelo and Raphael were painting at the age of 15? 14, 15. Wow. Just incredible. They had such discipline. I'm not even sure you see that now with... I know there's a few like, you know, child geniuses and all that. But yeah, Leonardo da Vinci was the same as well. Just crazy talented. Almost God-given, you know. And I'm not religious, so I don't know why I said that, but you know what I'm saying. A higher power gave them that talent. I'm sure it's the case. Alright then. Okay, I might just leave it like that. I'm going to walk away, take a step back. And I also want... I don't necessarily need these things in the middle to be white, because I think they're ever so slightly green or creamy coloured. But I do want to cover the line work. So I'm going to use a bit more white in there. And I'm going to show you what I can see. So there we are, that's what I've got. I think that's fine actually. I feel like it needs a flourish of some description, you know, talking about gold. I think I could add a little bit of gold. Don't know why, I just feel like it needs... Got this stuff, look. Brilliant gold ink, gold mica ink from Kuretake. I use this in my fluid writer as well. I think you get silver and other colours. I just feel like it needs a flourish of some description. Let's see what it looks like if I put a little bit of gold ink. Should I wait for it to dry? Where's my pole thing? Oh God, you gotta be right. Do you know what? I need to let it dry because I need to be able to rest my wrist on the page. So let's give that a little blast. Right, so I'll just give that a blast with air dryer, and I'm gonna switch to my water brush because I've got a finer point on that. Here we go. If I keep headbutting camera, I'm sorry. Right then, so I'm just gonna try and using this ink neat. Kind of like it just on that curled edge. Now think here, Joe, because it's still a tiny bit wet. Do we want to go on that edge for these? Yeah, I think so. So well done, Joy. You spent all that time trying to make it white and now you're making it gold. Just a wee touch. Oops. Slow down, lass. You're getting ahead of yourself as usual. There we go. Yeah, I really like this touch. I know it needed something. I think it'd be criminal not to make a few of these gold. This part I would suggest doing not on an easel, obviously, because you wouldn't want any drips. But, you know, never one to listen to me on advice. Right, that will do. The camera angle, I must admit, isn't doing anything for this. But I'll definitely show you. I'll take a photograph in good light on my window ledge and show you that before I finish. Right. Still think it needs something. It's all what I'm thinking. Quite like it going onto there as well. And then just going to do a little dip and then just stick to the corners, but I'd like some bigger blobs like that. Right. Oops. Right then. Goldfinger, he's the man with the Midas touch. Right. Bit of Shirley Bassey for you there. If the back door wasn't open, I'd have really belted it out for you. Right, put your gold paint away because I think you might have just ruined this painting. Right, let's take the tape off. I need something to wipe my finger because that's an accident waiting to happen, isn't it? Dear, Joe. Things you do. Spent ages trying to get that right and then you've just covered in gold blobs because you're just a dipstick. Right, here we go. Let's see if we can have a satisfying tape pull. He's the man with the Midas touch. I like a bit of Shirley Bassey. The minute you walked in the joint, I could tell you were a man of distinction, a real big spender. Good looking, so refined. This is so alright, childish. Rocket. Ah. Oh. Every time I've detacked this tape on my clothing, right? And it's only on. Look how much is stuck on it. Every time. Every single time. It's kind of too stuck. I mean, that's... Look at that. Why are you taking paper off? You are a knobhead. So annoying. I'm going to have to get some decent masking tape. I spend all this money on blooming art supplies and I've got cheap crap masking tape. Should just spend money on masking tape. What a dipstick. There we go. Why? Why do you plague me so? Are you in now, Rocket, so I can shut that back door? Yeah. Rocket was sniffing fence hoping to get a beef burger, I think. Here we go. This is terrible, isn't it, this tape? Get some decent tape. Joanne. You absolute dipstick. You never learn. Things. Come on. Come on there. Don't be messing with my emotions. Very delicate, you know. Perimenopausal. Is it stuck on the string? Is that what it is? What the bloody hell's problem with that? And you're getting sliced down there a little bit because you can't be trusted. Give up. Me and you are going to fall out. Masking in Hanna Karlzons. Every time I have a massive drama, don't matter whether it's fluid, tape, whatever. And it's worse because I've masked portrait faces a few times, and they always end up bloody ripping off the nose or something. Seriously, that's stuck to string, that, innit? It is, I can tell. Well, I don't want to cut string. Probably will do. There we go. I'll have to do. Tray annoying. Get my wee bit of blue paint, so I will. Get my wee bit of blue paint, so I will. Touch up. There we go. No harm done. Apart from to my sanity. And we've got the tape at the top. So I'll take that off and I'll take some photographs and I will be back. Here's a little look at it shining in the sun. Not that that's only ever going to be a pleasure just this once. Because obviously when I post it and things like that, you won't ever see it. I don't think. But yeah, it's really pretty, all the sparkle in the sunlight. Oh, I forgot to show you the other side of the page, and it's completely clear. So you saw how much water I used, and you saw how thickly I applied the acrylic paint, and nothing at all has gone through. So my preparation there was good. Well, guys, I've finished. And I've taken my photographs and I've cleaned up because everything was splattered in gold paint, including the page on the other side. So this is my celebration of Yorkshire Day, on Yorkshire Day today. 1st of August every year, if you are born and bred Yorkshire, I hope you're flying your flags in some sort of way. It's very simple. What I'm realising is colouring should be more about fun than anything for me personally. I think I was trying to achieve perfection on every page in my first year of colouring, and I know now that for me, I get more from it enjoying a fun session, and the outcome of it is just a bonus. I hope that makes sense. So the fun I've had over the last, I think I've been at it about 2 or 3 hours with stoppages, but I've had a ton of fun, and yeah, I love the outcome, but it's not refined, it's not polished or anything like that, but it's fun, and I had a lot of fun doing it. And just look at the sun's coming through the window. I'm wondering if you can, let me just see if you can catch some of that sparkle. I don't know which way it's going to sparkle for you guys, but I mean, it's lovely to see it when you open it up and you see the sparkles. Unfortunately, it doesn't show up on photographs. Happy Yorkshire Day, everybody, and have a wonderful August. This is page 1 of certainly 7 in August, and I hope tomorrow on the 2nd of August I'm going to be doing a second page, 3rd of August a third page, and that's just how I want to get through the first week. I'm excited about it. That's going to mean some interesting decisions on media. So I think I'll be filming most of it, and those videos will come out throughout the month of August. Until next time, guys, thank you for joining me for a cuppa. Ta-da for now!